Their goal is to bring you a podcast that sounds more like everyone else than anyone else.
We need to accept the fact that we are like every other podcast.
We want to be special, but we're not quite there yet.
It's the Zennial Odyssey podcast with Remy and Bobby Rocks.
You know what today is?
Today's Christmas.
It is October 1st.
Oh, fuck. Give me a second. Cancel the gift.
Well, the thing that sucks is I usually post that techno version of Spooky Scary Skeletons on October 1st.
Spooky, scary skeletons. There shivers down your spine.
It's a joy.
Dude, I learned how to play it on guitar. It's just too perfect.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about this time of year.
The fucking noise of like the tumbling bones.
But you know what also comes with this time of year?
Seasonal depression.
Yeah, it definitely starts. And on a day like today, so it's Saturday, it's October 1st, 2022. Here we are in New England.
It's blustery. Listen, it's blustery outside. It's like maybe 50, 55 degrees. It's raining. It's the kind of day that makes you want to stay in bed with your bird.
Do you know what I did I had a lot of errands I had to do at home. Wash the dishes, do laundry.
Life assignments.
So do you know what I did is I put on Songs of Faith and Devotion by Depeche Mode start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listened to the album start to finish. Now, granted, yes, it's my favorite album by them, but to me, it was like fitting with
today's vibe,
my vibe of today.
Agreed. It's a very.
So I figure what we can do is we could talk about the changing of seasons, but we could tie it into mental health. How about that?
Yeah. I think that's actually one of the overarching themes on the show. Is we're a couple of crazy dudes who are trying to reach other crazy people so they don't feel so crazy.
As I jokingly said to you on the ride up here, backstory before I kind of say the punchline of that joke, we sit here and we have advocated that men need to be more open about mental health issues.
Men need to be allowed to.
Men need to be allowed to, but we also have to allow ourselves to.
Yeah.
And then we talked about that in the Fight Club episode from season 1. We talked about it in a lot of things. We've talked about our own struggles with mental illness. But at the same time, like, we should just do an episode dedicated to that, where we could talk about our own experiences. We could talk about just things we've seen, conversations we've had with men, conversations that I had with like my friend Jason Cox. So back to the punchline. Yeah. The ultimate punchline that encapsulates this like episode can be that scene from the first Deadpool where Negasonic teenage warhead just makes fun of him when he shows up at the Xavier mansion, and he goes, "Ha, fake laugh, hiding real pain." Yeah, that's us right there.
I think that's also to bring it around to the name of the podcast, and those of us between X and millennials. I think it's really pertinent. I do. And I think that, like you had said, we never shied away from it. As a matter of fact, I'd say we embrace it, because at the heart of all things, okay, let's just be humans for a minute, period, everybody listening. But at the heart of all things, I think an inherent desire to feel okay in your skin and to start the dialogue, because in the last few years, the mental health dialogue's opened up huge. It's remarkable. But now we need to unlearn the men that we've learned to bottle that shit and to never show emotions, because that's just kind of frowned upon. We have to reteach that generation, our generations, and new young generations of men and women to be able to be like, now there's a line here, Bobby, like, you can say I'm fucked up, but if you're doing 36 TikToks about how your bipolar disorder is cute and quirky and it makes you into the manic pixie dream girl or whatever, that's a problem.
It's okay to say you're not okay, but what's not okay, and we've talked, you brought this up on, I think you brought it up on the Sexual Revolution episode it was earlier in season 2, where people make mental illness into fashion through TikToks and Reels. And that's where it crosses a line that it doesn't need to cross.
Yeah, I mean, you even like look at someone like, and this is no disrespect to the man, but someone like Pete Davidson. It's clearly kind of like, every time I look at him, I'm like, oh, he looks like I look on the nights when I do fucking coke back in like 10 years ago. But he's just barreling his way through all the Hollywood pussy right now. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. And I think a lot of it's got to do with the idea of clinching because his dad died in 9/11. He's been through some shit. I think there's this weird thing of like hitching your cabin to people to either help them or explore. I don't know. I feel like with him, it's kind of getting off topic, but a lot of those women, I think they want to save him. But that's what I mean. He's romanticized right now. A lot of women in Hollywood want to fuck that man.
So I have a structure in my head for this episode, okay?
Yeah.
Hear me out. Whether I talk about it first or you talk about it first, we both can talk about our experiences with mental health.
Can I ixnay this?
Okay, you can no, okay, that's fine.
Well,
I'll talk about myself. Like,
well, no, I'd like to do it with you, but
okay.
To me, it's going to be way too heavy to go from because my mental health, man, I've been to mental hospitals twice.
So I was gonna summarize kind of like for me, this is my opinion. The benefit of being middle aged is perspective.
Oh yeah.
So I can look back and I get perspective on certain things where when I was experiencing them in the moment, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Or what is this? And really that's what I mean by like kind of the backstories and things like that. And then I want to tie it into just current things because
I just think it's too good of a thing to not go 3 hours on one Sunday.
I know.
Saturday.
I know. And we can always do other episodes on this, but really just I want to tie it into something you just said. Because I want to tie it into a positive thing about how available everybody is through social media and whatever. Because I think of like what Jim Carrey, when he came out and he said that thing right after he retired, quote unquote, retired from acting, where he said, I thought like successfulness and all the money in the world would,
none of it's real.
Would make me feel better, and it didn't. That's ultimately where I would kind of tie it, because I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for these people with status. I don't want to say power because
it is what it is. Though we can call it.
They get it. They get it because we give it to them. Like that. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So if you want, like, I'll just talk about myself, and we'll do our usual. We'll have the segue break, however the fuck long it is, however long I choose it to be. And then we'll come back. I'll kind of talk about it so you can get a feel for how I'm going to talk about it, to let you know that it doesn't necessarily have to be that deep.
All right.
I'm going to tie in things that are other themes that we've talked about in other episodes, especially this season. But yeah, for everybody else, we're going to cut a quick break, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to jump off from there. So I want to preface this. I want to start it off by saying that I'm going to tie this part of it into like the whole boomer mindset, but also 80s pop culture, movies, things like that. Nice. So what I mean by that is, think about this. Do you know what I mean when I say schema? Like, we all have our schemas. It's like basically like how we interpret the world,
Yeah, it's essentially how we take it, more so how we take it in than how we give it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's our reaction to,
yeah.
But it's based off of like our upbringing. And for us, we were like that. We were a generation that was raised on TV. Now, there was good and bad with that. I mean, let's be honest. Sesame Street, Bob Ross, Mr. Rogers, like that's the good.
Yeah, man, honestly.
But then there's the bad.
Muppet Show.
Yeah. But then there's the bad. And the bad is the Hollywood's like just creating these idealisms and making you think that they're real.
Boys Don't Cry.
Yeah. So now mix in there, because they were boomers, like boomer producers and directors and all that. But now mix in there having boomers for parents.
Perfect storm.
Where they create that idealism and ignore like all the other stuff.
Realities.
And I go back to my parents basically laying out a blueprint, like benchmarks. At this point in your life, this. And yeah, I mean, early on, and I'm talking about when I'm like 12, 13 years old, I'm realizing I'm diverting from the path. So you get that inner turmoil.
Yeah.
that inner distress, like, because you want to,
It's even almost like, inner distress, but it's like a yellow flag comes
Yeah.
up within yourself.
I'm straying from the path. How do I get back on the path? Because I've been told if I'm not on the path, I'm a failure. And then for other reasons, and this is where we're not going to go as deep as you think we do. I started to experience my first instances where I had depression.
All right, so let me be the other voice for
Got
a minute.
it.
So please, obviously, what was that? You said 12, 13,
Mm-hmm.
1. It must have felt so foreign because it's never been talked about.
Yeah.
So you got a disease that you had no reference for.
Yep.
So how did you know you were sad? What kind of was the sadness initially you recognized in depression, or did the sadness stay?
The sadness stayed.
Okay. So yeah, please just.
And I did have periods where it would alleviate, which is as I got older, where I realized I had persistent depressive disorder, formerly known as dysthymia.
Yeah.
Which is I've half jokingly called depression light, but it's anything but.
Yeah, but I mean
But
see right
I-
there,
like, I don't-
you coping with it.
Yeah, I don't get manic episodes.
Yeah.
And with dysthymia, you tend not to. So I get longer. So for people who are bipolar, they have those polar
That's me.
swings.
I can tell these people stories.
going-
Manic, depressed.
Yep.
Manic, depressed.
Now, how long do they usually, if you don't mind me
No, not at
asking,
all. First, let me say, I have to frame my manic episodes as I'm incredibly creative and I'm blessed to be. So when other people have stripped off naked and jumped in mall fountains and done stuff that was far more self-destructive to them, I would take ecstasy and lock myself in my fucking apartment and record 150 songs, some of which you've heard. Because but it wasn't always like that. When I was younger, it was breaking windshields, punching through walls. It was breaking controllers, but all that came from a sadness that I didn't understand.
yeah.
But and then like you said, it's 2 episodes, and it's interesting because you learn to appreciate and hate both of them. Some people are like, well, I love my manic episodes. I don't know if I believe that, because when you're having a manic episode, it feels like you're driving in a car that you don't have the controls or the gas for. For me, my manic episodes for some people can last months. For me, now that I recognize it, fuck, a night.
I was going to ask you how long do depressive episodes last? Are they also a night?
No.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, where I've learned to recognize the manic so I don't do something really impulsive, fuck one of my friend's moms or something. I've learned to recognize it and really stop and switch. And that's the other thing for me is I can't. Some people can be like, oh, 2 weeks of the month, I'll be this, 2 weeks of the month, I'll be that. For me, it's a crapshoot generally, but I can tell you that I control the manic episodes better than I can control the depressive.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know off the top of my head what the longest depressive episode that I went through was?
No, I mean, I can't even speculate.
3 years.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
I can because...
Well, can you imagine that I'm still here?
No, well, I can. Like, there's a reason we're doing this
Yeah, I
together.
know.
But like,
I know.
when I was, I've talked about when I was 22, my buddy killed himself,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had to move out on my own, which I barely could afford then. And bro, I swear to God, when you're depressed that long, you feel like a ghost haunting a house.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's nothing. Food doesn't make you smile. You don't care what the fuck you watch or if you're staring at a blank screen.
Yep.
You generally want to be in bed more than anything else because doing nothing feels more normal in bed.
Yeah, I would say, so back to when I was about 13 years old,
Yeah.
I don't remember having to take naps. I don't remember up to that point in my life, like having moments during the changing of seasons where I just got that tired where I had to take naps. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
It started when I was about 13 years old, and I've gone through periods where it doesn't happen.
And is that how you know? Is that one of your tells? Like, oh, I'm in this. Or do you already know when
I
it
already
happens?
know.
Okay.
I already know when it happens. But I've also had periods where I don't feel like that, and those were great because I've always been looking for this is the part of me that I've sworn off the idealism part of it.
Yeah.
I've always been looking like, can I get back to the mindset, the emotional feelings of like before this started, and that's never going to happen.
No.
It's gone. It's gone. So there's a part of me that has to mourn that it's gone. And it's where I go from here. The biggest thing that takeaway I have from my depressive episodes was just my apathy. Just the feeling of apathy. So for people who don't understand what I mean, there's empathy, which is where you can feel for other people emotionally. You can put yourself in their shoes. But when I would be in the grips of the depression, let alone for myself, I just felt like a void.
Now, keep in mind, people need to understand. It doesn't mean he went Dahmer.
No,
Nothing like that. But that's the reason the comparison I made beforehand, just before you get back to it, like the zombie comparison.
Yeah.
You're walking through a scene.
I'm existing.
You're existing.
Yeah.
Barely.
And if you've never, for anyone out there who's never experienced existing, that is, it's beyond words. It's beyond
like
words how
sitting
it's torture. It's torture.
It's like sitting in a hot tub of piss.
Oh,
Just pure piss. Like, that's what I mean, is it's just constant discomfort.
it's very, I don't know. I don't even know how to respond to that.
I mean,
Yeesh.
that's it, but that's what it's
All
like.
right.
You squirm in your skin, you know? So let me ask you, Bobby, if you're okay with it, when was or is, or what was the last time you felt your depression in a way where you were like, fuck?
3 years ago.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Man. You got no breath of it from it.
Yeah. Well, it's because that's also when I started medication for
Yeah.
it. I started experiencing it at around 13 years old, and I did not get on medication for it until I was
of us did.
36.
Well, I went in my 20s, but I was way ahead.
Yep.
When I got diagnosed as bipolar, it wasn't even a fucking buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
honestly. And now it's like, oh, okay, we're all good. We're all in this together.
And in between there were moments where I had great experiences, but at the same time, going back to that theme that emerged, especially like with boomer parents and benchmarks. So then there would be, well, you'll grow out of it.
Oh, 100%.
Or, oh, well, the brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25. And then, but it's like, then when I got there and things didn't change, the dread, the dread that seeps in and what that did to my self-esteem and all that.
But bro, even that, once you say that, I listen to that as someone who's told that too, and it's so fucking dismissive.
Yeah. And it's disrespectful.
Like, listen, or the one I got more than you apparently, just because you didn't put it in the line, but you may have, is,
oh no, I understood the stigma.
no, I'm saying the shit I got from my family that maybe you didn't was but look at your life. You live in Plymouth. This house is beautiful. Like, what the fuck is so depressed? I got a lot of that from my dad.
Not as direct as that, but there was dancing around it at times from people close to me.
The crazy end of that story is that he got depression once he got older, right before he got his Alzheimer's.
Which makes sense.
And he said to me, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
And you almost don't want him to.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I didn't want you to ever, but he's like, I get it now. You're just sad.
Yeah.
That's it. Exactly. That's what nobody can get. Whether Bobby's talking about his depression, mine, most people's, you're just sad.
I would never wish, when I felt at those depths, I would never wish that upon anybody. Never. I would never wish that upon
Do you want to know what that ennui sounds like? Listen to a DMX album and then an Alice in Chains album. That's all you got to do for music, because you can hear the pathos in the people who struggled, you know? And I think me and Bobby's music was a huge fucking savior for both of us.
As was marijuana.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you.
I self-medicated.
This is perfect. I was going to say, what was your first crutch? Mine was marijuana.
No, I do want to say this, because even though I had, we've talked about this before. Even though we have boomer parents, I did have a supportive home environment.
I don't want to miscast it either.
Yeah, I don't want to miscast it either. Because if I didn't have it, I probably would have been worse off.
Oh, definitely would have been, bro. The foundation of love. Like, listen, my dad didn't get it, but he loved me unconditionally.
Yeah.
My mom didn't get it, but she tried. My siblings could have tried harder, but either way, I agree with you completely. I don't want people to think we're saying we're from broken homes.
No. And I truly feel like that helped keep me alive. But then, yes, I was introduced to marijuana when I was around 13 years old. Yeah. And I remember the first time I got high.
Let's tell our stories, because mine's great.
Yeah.
Yours is going to be good.
Yeah. So the first time I got high, this is how vividly I can remember it. It's the summer, so we've been out of school for like a week, and yes, my brother introduced me to it. No, but I had asked, and he said,
I know how
So
that
my brother
works.
was 16 when I was 13, and I had tried before.
And it didn't work.
Yeah. You ever heard that?
Bro, that's
it's a
part
re-
of my
it's a-
story.
Yeah, it's a real thing. So
100%.
it took me about 3 tries.
Took me 3 or 4.
Yeah. So we smoked. We rolled a joint. We smoked. We're sitting at the kitchen table that's right outside this dining room, and then all of a sudden, I got this feeling of warmth. Now it was a hot day, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
I know.
It wasn't a oppressive warmth. It was like this is nice. And then I started almost to feel like a breeze that was blowing against me, and that breeze blew a smile onto my face. And then I started
30 years.
Yeah, and then I started chuckling, and then he said my eyes got bloodshot, and it lasted for probably about 30, 45 minutes. It was great.
Yeah, my story's similar, and it's like my buddy Dwayne was Jamaican, which makes my story so cliche.
Yeah.
But so he was the one initially who was like, listen, when I go to New York on the weekends, like basically to Little Jamaica, we smoke, man. He's like, do you want to smoke at some point? And I'm like, you seem pretty fucking cool, dude. So you know what? This might be my chance to finally be cool because I've been such a pud. And he keeps bringing it over like once a week, and it doesn't work the first 3 weeks. Now he gets stoned. I'm so jealous. He looks so happy. Then he eats my food and shit. Then it's like the 3rd or 4th, and I remember my dad's basement in Plymouth. We have the basement door open. My dad's gonna be off all day, and we have like a corncob pipe because that's just
Corncob pie.
That's pipe.
Oh, pipe. Okay, all right.
That was good, bro.
I was gonna be like a corncob pie.
That sounds
I don't think
gross,
I've
but
ever
I'm.
had that.
Do you like corn?
No, my dad used to have a corncob pipe. I think it's pretty stereotypical that
is.
somebody has a corncob pipe.
And like, so, we smoked it. And I remember, just like you said, for me, I was in the doorway and I realized, I'm like, oh, this shit's hitting. But here's the thing. I swear this, and I told this to him, and I was like, oh, fuck. Because it was the first time, I think, in the last 5 years up to that point when I felt stress-free. It was the first time I felt normal. And I said to him, I'm like, I'll never forget this because I cast my shit in stone. I said to him, first time smoked. I looked at him, I said, oh, bro, this is going to be a problem.
Oh, what? Wow.
Just because I knew I would want to feel that way 24 hours a day. I knew that.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
So as I got older, and I was in my late teens and stuff, and that's when I went through the longest period of depression. I honestly feel like, because stress comes along with that. I actually, when I was about 21 years old, started losing my facial hair.
Oh, alopecia.
Yeah. So, and I went to a doctor. That's a great story in and of itself.
I'm surprised you didn't mention it during the Jada Pinkett Smith episode.
I know. Yeah. So I actually, at one point, I lost patches like here. Like I couldn't even grow a goatee.
Keanu has it. Keanu Reeves.
Really?
Yeah. Look at his beard next time you see that motherfucker.
And so I went to my doctor and I think that was related to depression. And you know what cured it for me? Getting shots of cortisol in my face.
Wow.
Yeah. Or cortisone.
Yeah, well,
And it took about 6 months, but I can grow this lovely beard you see.
Needles in the face.
Yeah, needles to the face. Yeah, he actually went and got an intern to look at me because he's like, you may not come across this in your career. Hey, and he's like, hey, do you mind? And I was like, well, I kind of came here for solutions, so yeah, whatever.
Yeah, let's do it.
I signed the paperwork. It's fine. But anyway, yeah. So when I was in my late teens and I went through the longest period of the depression, that is when I was using like marijuana heavily, recreationally. And what that did is it got me to socialize because especially up to that point, when I would start to dip, I would isolate. And that's the worst thing.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's just feeding itself, you know? And that allowed me to socialize. It would reduce my inhibitions in an appropriate way.
No, I know what you mean.
Alcohol reducing your inhibitions is not a good thing, but marijuana is because it's like,
you're just chilling.
yeah, it's when you're relaxed. And by pure chance, I would get, I always mix them up. Which one is CBD heavy? Sativa or indica?
Oh, it doesn't go that way.
I know it exists, but one of the plants tends to have like more dominant CBD, so that's the one you get more of the relaxing feeling.
Indica, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then the other one,
It wakes you up.
whether it wakes you up. Like I was talking with my friend Jason, and he said like he doesn't like to do. Is it sativa that would make you more alert?
Yeah, I
and all that?
never do sativa.
Yeah. So like just by chance, I'm doing indica heavy strains or indica dominant strains.
Yeah.
Because because if I was getting paranoid and all that wouldn't help.
I hear you, man. I don't like that. But I mean, at least there's an option for people.
Yeah, but ultimately 2019, I'm really fast forward here. 2019, I noticed in my 30s that I likely had seasonal depressive disorder too. For people in the Northeast, for people who are not in the Northeast, where the sun sets in the middle of the winter at 4 p.m.
Yeah, people
like
don't
that
realize
is
that.
that is terrible when you don't get sunlight
And then January and February, you're adding no sunlight, no vitamin D to
and you can't get outside. You can't be active. You're just stuck.
-5 degrees.
So anyway,
So, I mean, more on that though. So a lot of people up here do suffer from SAD, seasonal affective disorder.
and in my 30s, it has gotten worse. So you factor that into, I was burnt out at my job. I should have left, but I didn't. Literally at the same time, my father was on dialysis. His kidneys had gone, and his health was fading, but he was putting on a front. Like he was doing better than he was. And then my mom, they found a mass in my mom. And then literally 3 weeks later, my father's dead. And then 2 weeks after that, my mom's at, I think Beth Israel in Boston getting the surgeries
That's scary.
to remove cancer. And then I left my job. I went to another job. And then in between all there, I got myself in some legal trouble. And so there was a possibility I could go to jail.
Just quick, just to put it out, it's nothing weird, guys. It's job related. Don't worry about it.
So everything I just described
Yeah.
happened literally within 7 months.
Those are those moments that are going to try to test you.
Yeah. And then there was there were like issues going on at home, and my wife and I were just having an argument, and she was kind of like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I'd never told her, and then finally I told her how I was feeling, and that was very cathartic. I had never opened up like that to people.
Yeah.
Now, if you've never experienced something like that, like if people have never been to therapy, the only way I can describe it is that when you have that moment, that breakthrough moment in therapy where you're just exposed to the world, where your defenses are gone, and you have that momentary like fight or flight kicks in because you're like, oh my God.
Well, not this.
Yeah, but because it was a supportive thing. And then from there, I went to my doctor and talked to my doctor, and luckily he didn't section me
No, I know.
for a 72-hour eval.
Yeah, that's always scary.
But unfortunately, because I went to school for psychology and development, and I did learn about medications, so he was trying to do the doctor thing, like, all right, so I'm going to give you like a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I don't know if you ever heard about it. I'm like, yeah, an SSRI. Yeah, you're going to give me a mood stabilizer. And he's like, oh. And he goes, oh, And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't want to steal your thunder, dog.
You love getting smugged to doctors.
Well, I tried really hard since I was in a crisis. So I
dialed it back.
Typical me in a crisis, and I still got to have my biting cynicism and sarcasm. So
nihilism, sir.
But anyway, I know you and I have talked about this off the air. So he put me on an SSRI. Specifically, he put me on Zoloft, and he started me on 50 milligrams, which is the quote unquote like effective dose. I at one point got up to 100 milligrams, and while I don't have the dips, it doesn't take the feelings completely away. But not that I thought it would, but
you can say if you think that it softens them, that's okay.
Yeah. So it's better now. At the same time, because this is something you and I've talked about. This is something I've talked about with my friend Jason. I equate it to an MP3.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I mean by that for everyone, when they want to know, when you want to know what I mean by that, what I mean is SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Yeah, they take away the dips, but they also take away the high, like the natural things. Like think about something that would make you elated: a wedding. Birth of a child,
cat video,
a cat, yes, kitten mittens. That would do it for me. But it
might smile whereas you used to laugh.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It narrows your spectrum of emotions.
But it needs to,
and it needs to. But I miss having a wider range of emotion. I do. And that's why I equate it to an MP3 player or an MP3, because what I mean by that is when technology advanced and we went digital with music,
something was lost.
And we compress music. How do we do that? We cut out the highs and the lows, and we just get the middle. And then what do they do to make up for it? They jack up the volume. Yeah. So yeah, to me, that's like as close to an apples to apples comparison that I can make. And well, I started, and I did this on my own, so my doctor will probably get upset, but I started going back down on my own. So I'm back down to 50 milligrams.
There you go.
And I'm fine.
Yeah. I mean, we don't necessarily condone people self-administering.
What I'm doing, this is my disclaimer. Don't do that without at least talking to your doctor first, because there can be adverse consequences to that.
Yeah. We're just telling our personal stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, people may be listening to this and they're going, what the fuck is a selective serotonin? Here is how I break it down in simple terms for everybody. So my brain chemically does not produce enough serotonin. That's
mansplaining with Bob.
Yeah. But for example, if someone says, and you have no knowledge, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, what does that mean to you? That's all it means.
You know your shit.
Yeah. But so essentially, for people who don't know, like at the basic, like atomic level of our brains, there's areas of our brains that produce chemicals, and then they look like puzzle pieces, and they fit into receptors, other parts of our brains, and that's how literally our brain cells communicate with one another, and that is how we think, we process things. That's how our bodies work. That's how we have emotions. And so serotonin is a very important chemical that our brains produce. It helps us regulate our sleep. It helps us with our moods. It helps us with fight or flight. It helps us with a lot of things. So when you have a lack of serotonin available, it's why like mood changes. It's why there's all this stuff. So essentially the med that I'm on blocks. Because what happens is that part of your brain that releases the chemicals also absorbs it when it's done. So what the medication I'm on does is it blocks the receptor's ability to reabsorb it. So it's just readily available, and that other part can take it, and then it's still kicking out serotonin. And the idea is that over time, there's more serotonin available, so it'll
balance more.
Yeah, it'll balance things out.
Yeah. Well, so what's been your experience? I mean, are you reducing your intake because you're planning on stopping it, or?
I'm reducing it because there are side effects. Also, as a side, it's like, okay, I've been on 100 milligrams for 2 years. So what happens if I go down to 50?
Yeah, no, I mean,
like, what's to see this? And I'm doing it at the same time that the season's changing and there's less sunlight.
Well, don't set yourself up.
No. So I'm not going to go completely off of it in the wintertime if I do go off of it. But I know we watched, and I'm kind of jumping ahead because on the next episode, we're going to have my friend Jay on, and we're going to talk about that Netflix series, How to Change Your Mind and the psychedelics. And you know what? Maybe that's something that's an avenue I would go. And I don't want to go any more in depth there because I have thoughts that I just want to save for that episode with the both of you here.
Fair.
Yeah. So do you have experience with either SSRI medications or medications?
Yeah, I mean,
and how do they make you feel?
When I first realized that I was depressed and was going to get medicated, I didn't know enough about it personally. And I do think the first one they throw at a lot of people is Zoloft for whatever reason. And I mean,
I'm sorry, Zoloft, the gateway drug of mental health.
For real though. So I remember, like you said, it's almost like a softening of the stereo. And I didn't necessarily love it. But my thing is this. I tried them all because I was like, all right, I want to find one's going to work for me. 2, that's going to, I was really gunning for the least amount of side effects because I knew that if this thing worked, I was going to be on it for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And so I went through a lot. I had a couple really, I always tell people, listen, if Prozac's your thing, that's great. I and quite a few friends have had psychotic breaks on, not immediately, but when we've been on it for like a year and a half. It's one of the craziest shits I've ever felt in my life. You wake up fucked, just a sickening urge of self-destruction that you have almost no control over. So I tried Prozac twice. I tried a bunch. What I ended up settling on is Celexa. Celexa for me was, without question, I'm like, okay, doesn't make me want to punch people. It doesn't make me want to cry. It's a medium for me.
Yeah. And
I quickly realized all my body parts still worked. I wasn't getting fatter or skinnier from it. And that for me, I've been on that shit for years. To the point where I'm because I have the same question as what would happen if I just stopped? But from my own experiences, at least for me, that's not how you do it. At least for me at this point, I mean, I may ask, but then again, I'm still fucking depressed. So my thought is this: if my depression right now is at 20% out of 100, it would be at 70 every day if I didn't have assistance. Now we add with that my use of psychedelics for healing, which we'll get into more. You match with that your personal outlets, whether or not you find religion. There are a lot of variables that affect your daily disposition.
Yeah.
But what we need to understand is the chemical shit in our head is set in stone. It's chemical. And it was insane because there was such a stigma with these things. if there was a depressed member of your family, like family would be like, oh, Uncle so-and-so's a little strange. Like there's just a
He's sad.
yeah, but there's just like a fucking stigma, you know?
You know what was weird? It was harder to tell my mom when I did get on medication than it was to tell my doctor.
Oh no, why though? That makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's your mom, dude.
But honestly, yeah, because there's going to be like that moment. Is it something I did?
yeah, of course.
A typical, boomer. Yeah. I'm sorry, but it's true.
But spoiler alert, it totally was.
Yeah, but this was the thing that was really reassuring. Oh, what did they put you on? Oh, this relative's on that. This relative's on that. And I'm not on that, but I have anxiety, so I take it. And that was very like, wow, okay, that's very comforting. And they're
destigmatizing.
Yeah. And that was very huge. So if we had to wrap a bow on what we're talking about here, because believe it or not, we've gone 36 minutes. We haven't gone too heavy. Haven't gone too deep. Wrap it up in a bow. I mean, because ultimately I feel like this episode is us being brave and talking about our experiences. For the mental health awareness for men and letting other men out there know. And I think an episode like this is good for ladies too, because
I really don't want anyone ever thinking that this is gender specific.
This isn't the man show.
We can speak out to men because we can't necessarily speak out to or on behalf of women, but we can factor them in. But yeah, don't think that we're saying only men get depressed, and don't think that we're saying one gender's the other reason for getting depressed. We're just saying it's time to talk about this across the board, and that doesn't mean fucking getting a tattoo that says bipolar and hot. It doesn't mean
we need to create, without the satire, we need to create that testicular cancer group from Fight Club. And what I really mean by that is that like
support group from
But what I mean by that is that was, in hindsight, it's very touching that like two men embracing and broken spirits and just open and raw, and we need more environments like that for men.
No, I agree. And I think that if we just continue destigmatization, if we keep on the same road that we've been going
Destigmatization?
Don't talk down to me.
I said it with a question mark.
Fair enough. I think that there is a state of change.
Doesn't that fly in the whole point of the episode if I'm just like, I just tear you down?
Well, that's it. That's the other thing about men. We've got to be gentler to each other.
We do, and we have to realize that. That's okay. You know what one of the worst adages is? Is be a man.
Well, yeah, and listen, that's its own fucking episode. Be a man, men don't cry, real men this and that, real men this and that. Get the fuck out of here.
It's not that be a man has to go away. It's that we have to redefine.
I say it can go away. I'm going to argue that. I think that with everybody switching genders and everything, no, I think be a man can go away.
It can't go right away. I think I'm talking about it like a transition. If we're talking about you see what I'm doing there?
Yeah,
I'm
that's
making
good.
connected transitions. Yeah, we need to redefine it, and then eventually it can go away. But yeah, right now it's a nasty term.
I think even just the pressure on the statement alone is a very loaded statement. So everybody just be. Just be.
It's also the name of a movie that comedian Derek Furtado was in. Local comedian there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, be a man.
Shout out, Derek Furtado.
Yeah, he used to work with us.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
I'm not on his balls like you, but
you know. Well, it's because I worked with him longer than you did.
you should never be on a man's balls regardless.
You know, if we're
I'm kidding. I suck balls.
I was gonna say, you know, we just spent a whole episode talking about being fragile and building men up, and then we just tear each other down.
It's not that, guys. Keep this whole thing clipped in. Listen, what just happened between me and Bob is a perfect example of why shit's fucked. Let me take this for a second.
Okay.
So we share everything, and we're raw. And you got to keep in mind, me and Bobby sit across the table. We'll film this eventually, but it's probably going to suck for a little bit until we get a studio. But we look at each other, and we fucking just shared some of the realest shit ever. And then the minute we transitioned, we kind of went to a place because we were vulnerable and we were a little nervous there.
Oh, are you saying like a defense mechanism
Yeah.
kicked in?
Like immediately, and here's the thing. I need to get to a place where I can do it without having to follow it up with bullshit. So that's on me, and I think that's on a lot of us.
Well, yeah, it's on me too. I agree.
Because I immediately went to like, yeah, fuck you. Let me see some titties.
Oh, you mean you went to bro?
Yeah. I went to Chad. So actually the conversation was nice, and this is going to be ongoing with us. I've had a couple stays at hospitals. Like, we'll have some real discussions over time, but let's get to know each other. Not
And
me
if we
Bob,
have
all of you guys,
listen, if we have other guests on here, male, female, whatever, if it makes you comfortable, if I have to do the icebreakers about those dark places, I'll do it. I'll do it. I got nothing to hide. I got no shame.
yeah, no, we're out there, man.
It doesn't make me weaker. It makes me stronger.
Listen to that.
Yeah, it makes me stronger to openly admit that and put my trust in other people to tell them these things, let alone on a fucking podcast or in person. It just, I feel like that's very liberating and powerful.
Yeah, it's empowering.
Yeah, to own, like for me, to own my depression and to understand what it is and to talk openly about it.
Owning mine is one thing, but man, I love monetizing it.
Oh, fuck off.
That's my website. That was my website summed up.
All right, I guess, and on that note, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And until the next, we'll see you then.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. And remember, you can hit us up about any problem you guys are having, or if anyone wants to listen within that night.
And if we were recording this, we would put the disclaimer on there if you're having mental health, blah, 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 blah.
By the way,
and I hate to minimize it like that. I'm sorry.
You jumped in too quick for me. Like, I was double talking on purpose, guys. I'm not having a stroke.
That it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
On the next episode of the Zennial Odyssey podcast, Remy and Bobby Rouse discuss
What is today's episode about?
I don't want to say filler, but a fun little look back on the effect that horror movies have had on us.
That's the ultimate, to me, is ultimate psychological because it's trauma. You're watching it, you're traumatized.
See, I don't consider, I'll be honest with you, and this is, open for debate, but I wouldn't consider a rape or revenge thriller psychological. Psychological horror, it needs to be slower. It needs to be more paced to focus on the characters so I can connect with them so that the horror is way more riveting than throwing 5 good-looking teenagers to be killed.
I'm thinking that's the ultimate mandala effect, epitome of like terrible horror movies.
But fucking fun, man.
Yeah.
Even bad horror.
Like 976 Evil?
Evil, yeah.
Yeah, come on. That's great stuff. That is not acceptable anymore, and it's our way to play that out. So that's why I think it's important to talk about, too.
I think that it's a fun place to escape to. I'm a little more autistic when it comes to horror than Bobby. Bobby's way more autistic than me when it comes to movie quotes.
Find the XOP on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, our Facebook page, or YouTube.